let's discuss on the today's topic, the business requirement document. I'll explain you in detail, what is the business requirement document, how the business analyst will prepare the document step by step. So let's work together on the business requirement document. Okay. So let's first of all, I'll give the introduction on the what is the business requirement document in detail. Okay, the definition of business requirement document should look like, but the BRD, it's also called as a BRD. A BRD, it's a formal document that outlines the business needs, business objective, and the business requirement for a new system, product, or the process, where contain all the business requirements. Okay, and the purpose of the business requirement document is it serve has a foundational agreement between the business stakeholder and the project team. So it's business analysts prepare the business requirement document for the all the users, the development team or the business users or the end user. So to gather the requirement from the businesses, subject matter expert, operation team, and then prepare the business requirement document with using the different requirement illustration technique. I'll explain that part in after some time. So let's then just hold for some time. And then the analogy. For analogy, for preparing the BRD is think of it has a what and why blueprint before building the how. So it do the 5W1H analysis in detail. Okay, then the key roles of the business requirement document. It translates high level business goal into the actionable requirement that we call the functional requirement or the non-functional requirement for the technical teams. So technical teams should understand that all the functional requirement. So that's the key role of the business requirement document. Let's move on the next slide. So why is a BRD is essential? So clarity, alignment, scope management, foundation for the design, basis for the testing, risk management, communication tool, and measurable success. That's are the key essential points for the business analyst. Let's discuss one by one. So clarity and alignment. It the business requirement document, it ensure all the stakeholder have the shared understanding of the project purpose and the scope. So everyone, if they want to understand the project scope or the project purpose or the project objective and the project goal, so that will be give their essential requirement from the business requirement document. So business requirement document is a key document for the requirements. Then the scope management, so it define the clear boundaries. So business requirement will define the in scope functionality and out scope functionality. What are the scope should have the defined by the business team and what need to be developed by the development team. That should be in detail and the clear boundaries for them. And it help us the preventing the project manager or the business team or the product team to away from the scope creep. Scope creep situation. Basically, scope creep is a situation. I'll prepare the separate video for the scope creep. But now let's understand scope creep is a situation where the product team or the IT team is not able to deliver the product within a time, within a budget, within a available resources. So that's if that situation is occurs or that situation is happen in the product team, so that we call as a scope creep. Let's move on the next part. That is the foundation for the design. So the BRD is a foundation for the design. It provides the necessary inputs for the technical team and the development team to the develop. So if they know what to develop, how to develop, when to develop, what system are impacted. So that's all their question will answer by the business requirement document and the functional requirement. Then it basis for the testing. The tester or the quality team should use the business requirement document to do the write down the test cases. They take the reference from the business requirement document and to write down the test cases. So it serves the benchmark for the validating the final solution. Then risk mitigation, it contains the risk part also. What is the operational risk, what is a technical risk, what is a feasibility risk, what is a resource risk. So all these kind of risks are covered, and what are the risks which we mitigate, what are the risks we need to cover, and what risks we are take with us. So that's all these things cover in that's the part of essential of business analyst. So it helps us identify the potential issue early and clarify the expectation, because we are write down all the requirements. So then communication still, it the tools, it's communication tools, it facilitate the effective communication across the diverse team, all the teams. There is the different teams. One is the operational team, one is the marketing team, one is the sales team, one is the the management team, one is the development team, and one of the managers team. So all these things are, they have communicated in the way of the business analyst. They will understand initial requirements with the BRD document. So that's the yes, what is communication tool. And then the measurable success links project deliverable. It links the project deliverable back to back original business objective. So that's the measurable success. It helps the businesses or the business analyst to measure the success, how the project will grow. Then move on the next slide. Let's consider the key components of BRD. It's the most important thing. And the interviewer will ask you what are the table of content for the BRD. So then you may answer them to the key components of key components of BRD. Ideal key components of BRD. Let's give me the execution summary, introduction and project overview, business goal objective, the scope, in scope functionality and out scope functionality, stakeholder, business process flow futures, and the functional requirement, non-functional requirement, data reporting requirement, assumption, constraint, dependencies, glossary, and the appendix. That's are the key components of the business requirement document. Let's discuss each key components in detail in upcoming slide. Let's move on that part. Let's the first section of BRD, that is execution summary and the introduction. So in execution summary, we should write in detail brief overview of the project's its purpose and the key outcomes from that project. What goal, what objective we are going to solve after implementing that business requirements in the system. So that's covered in the execution summary part. Then we will move the highlighted the most critical business needs and address them. So what are the high urgent and what are the important needs that should be covered for, that should be do in the first release. So that's there is. Then the target audience, senior management, business stakeholder, all these things cover in the executive summary. Then we will move to the next part. Next part is the introduction and project overview. So in background of the project, why we are going create that project, why there is a need of business requirement document, what are the business requirement we should go. So we will give the all the backgrounds of that document. Okay, all that business requirements. Then we will do the problem statement and opportunity identified. What are the current problem, what are the process are lacking, and what are the opportunities, what are the opportunities we are identifying to enhance that system, to add new system for the businesses, to increase their the sales volume, to increase their the profitability volume, to utilize their unnecessary flow in the system. So that's will cover in that part. So then high level vision of the solution, what are the main objective goal we are going to solve, what are the high level of the approach from that solution. So we will write that thing in the business requirement document. Then the reference and related documents, what are documents where we take the reference, what are the points we take from the other resources which are available, like a primary resources, secondary resources. So all these things we include in the references and related document part. So then move on the next topic. It's the second of the BRD section. Second, let's business goal, business objective, and the scope we will cover in that part. So let's business goal and business objective. In the business goal topic, we will cover in the business goal section. We will cover the broad and high level statement of what the business aims to achieve, why the business want that system, what are the goal the business want to solve from that business requirement document or that specific system or the functionality that should be covered in the business goal. It increase the customer satisfaction level, it increase the sales, it increase the customer volume, it give us the appropriate data where we need, store the new stores. So customer behavior. So that's whatever your goal. So that should be covered in the goal part. And then the objective. Let's come to the objective. It's a specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bounded. So it satisfies the definition of SMART. So SMART stand for the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bounded. So all the requirements are objectives are should be satisfy the definition of the SMART. Then target the support that goal, reduce the customer support call volume by 50% within the 60 months. That's are the objective. So, to provide the appropriate solution, optimized solution to the customers, to increase the customer satisfaction level. That's are the objectives. Build That's such document and that's such functionality. Let's move on the next part. That's the scope. So in scope, we should cover the in-scope functionality and out-scope functionality. Basically, in in-scope functionality, we should go clearly define what are the project will deliver, what are the delivers after going to live that project, what are the services, what are the product we are delivering to the users of that system or that service. That should be covered in the in-scope functionality. Then we will move to the out of scope functionality. In out of scope functionality, explicitly we will inline or we add that functionality we are not going to touch in that business requirement document, or that should be out of scope. That should not be covered in that business requirement. So that's part we should cover in the business out of scope out of scope part. Then the crucial for managing an expectation and preventing the scope screen. It should be important. Out of scope functionality is the most important part for the business requirement document. Okay. Then move the stakeholder and the process group. It's also the stakeholders. In stakeholder management or doing the stakeholder, we should use a RACI matrix. RACI stand for the responsible, accountable, informed, and the consultant. So that's the RACI stands for. Then they identify all individual and group impacted by influence the projects. And two, stakeholder management will help us the requirement gathering technique. So to gather the requirement from the different stakeholder to achieve the objective of the business, to achieve the goal of the business. So that's the stakeholder is most important part of that. Then it includes the role and responsibilities of related to the project. Then we will move the next topic is the process, the business process flow. In that business process flow, we should cover the gap analysis in detail. In gap analysis, we will consider current means what is the hedges process, and future means what should be a to be process, what the process should look like after implementing that the business requirement or the functional requirement in the system. So that part we should cover in the business process flow. Let's discuss in detail the visual representation of how the business operation are currently performed. If there we should write the wireframes and prototype for the business flow. We should write each field detailed description, how the length of that field, what type of button it should be. It should be text box, it should be link, it should be radio button, it should be draw down button. That should be covered in the hedges and to be processed in detail. What it has a menu, what document it required. It we cover the IMAX point, the Excel file they require, the PDF file they require the Word file. They require the JSON file. That should cover in the hedges and to be processed. And what are the technology we are going to change it, that should cover in the hedges and to be processed. Then illustrate how the process will change with the new solutions. Then we will cover it helps identify the inefficiency and opportunities to improvement. So that we should cover. And when you the business analyst or the functional team or the any person write down the hedges and to be processed in detail, then he should understand how the system should look like after implementing that business requirements. Then the fourth section of BRD is the requirement and is the core. Requirement is the core of the business requirement. So there is a functional requirement, non-functional requirement, business requirement, technical requirement. So most important and key requirement are the functional requirement and non-functional requirement. In a functional requirement, we should consider the requirement in a functional way. How the system should work. The system should perform the login page. So all the functional requirement that system should perform. So that should be covered. So it covers the what the systems must do, what the system will not do. So that part will be covered in the functional requirement document. Describe the behavior and capabilities of the system. Often the express and user stories and use cases. It should contain all types of the user stories which are the part of the functional requirement and use cases. In use cases, what is the alternative flow, what is the basic flow, what is the exceptional flow, what is the positive flow. That should cover in detail how that functionality should work. All these things cover. There is the acceptance criteria should cover how the system will perform. Then we will accept that user story. That should be covered in detail with the chart way in the functional requirement document. Suppose if consider one of the example for the functional requirement, the system shall allow user to log in with the username and password. The system shall generate the daily sales report. That's a kind of the examples of the functional requirement. Then let's cover the non-functional requirement. How well the system must perform. That is also the important requirement. That are the intangible requirement. Okay. So it describes the quality, constraint, characteristics, of the system, how the system should work, the scalability of the system, availability of the system, performance of the system, security of the system, or the user role according to what system should display the screen. That's all things covered in the non-functional requirements. Let's suppose the example: performance, response time, security, usability, or the scalability, reliability of the system. That all things are covered in the non-functional requirement, and it's the most important thing to cover the non-functional requirement. Let's move on the next slide. So BRD section, data reporting and other key sections are the part section of the business requirement document. Let's discuss one by one. First one is the data requirement, the reporting requirement, assumption, constraint, dependency, glossary, and appendices. So let's discuss the data requirement. Define the data entities. It helps us to prepare the tables, to prepare the tables for the SQL, to store the data in the column and row format. So there we cover the data requirement. Data entity. It helps us to draw the entity relationship diagram, which we call ERD diagrams. Okay. Then attributes, relations, data sources, and the data quality standard. That all are covered in the data requirements. Example of customer data, order data, sales data, marketing data, human resource HR data, portal data. That data should cover in the data requirement, and we will clearly draw the entity relationship diagram. Okay, then the reporting requirement. This in reporting requirement we cover the specific the type of report needed. There contain the frequency, audience. There is a bars report. There is a holding report. There is a sales report. There is the order report. There is the different kind of report. There is the nominee report. So all these things cover in the report requirement. How the reports look like. There is the ad hoc report. So that thing is covered in the reporting requirement. How it should look like. Then the assumptions, factor taken as a or planning the purpose. It integrate with the system X will be strategified. So that we cover in the assumption. Let's move on the constraint. Constraint has a limitation and restrictions, where we are going to limit the system, where we have the restrictions on the system. It's also covered little bit of the out of scope functionality. Must use existing hardware, and the budget and time should that in constraint in the constraint. Then the dependency, external factor or other project the current project rely on. If there is a API related changes, if suppose we have the system, the order processing system, so different system are interacted with each other while we are doing the order. So different systems should be available when we need that we using the APIs. So that's the dependency. Other systems should activate, clients should be activate, scheme should be activated. That should be covered in the dependency factor. And then the glossary, define the key terms and acronyms, appendix supporting document, wireframes, mockup, external specific. So appendices we cover how the wireframes, prototypes, mockup should look like with using the Figma, Balsamiq, InVision tools to prepare that in detail, so user can understand very well where we are going to building. Let's move on the next part. So the next part is the business analyst role in the business BRD creation. It's the most important, guys. If you are the business analyst, so what are your role to creating the business requirement document? So you should act as a illustration expert. You should act as an analytical thinker. You should act as a translator. You should act as a facilitator. You should act as a documenter, and you should act as a validator. So let's discuss each point in detail. So you should act as a illustration expert, to use the different illustration technique like questionnaire, chat session, brainstorming, group discussion, meetings, team meetings, to gather the requirement, elicit the requirement. You should use that technique and then gather all kinds of requirements. So use the various techniques like interview, workshop, surveys, gather the requirement from the stakeholder and understand that requirement. Then analytical thinking. You, after gathering your all the requirement, you should be analytical thinking. You should think how that the business requirement, the requirement which I gather from the subject matter expert or the business team or the operation team, how I can implement that in the system, how the system should work after implementing that requirement. You should understand all these requirements are feasible or not feasible with the our current system. or you should understand what are the requirement, have the highest importance, highest urgency, what requirement we should cover on the top, what are the regulatory requirements. So you should have analytical thinking, how the system should work. After implementing that requirement, how the UI UX should look like, how to prepare the wireframes, prototype for that requirement. So you should have that analytical ability as a business analyst. And then the translator, all the business requirement, you should able to convert them into the functional requirement. You should be able to convert them in the technical requirement. It should satisfy the definition of smart. It should satisfy the definition of invest. Okay, you should cover all these things in detail. Convert the complex business need into clear, ambiguous technical requirements. And then the facilitator, you should manage the stakeholder expectation and resolve their conflict. You should understand why the stakeholder comes at you, what are their problem, how you can give solution them to satisfy their the business problem. You should be a facilitator for all kinds of the stakeholder problems related to that business requirement document. You should be a documentator. You should have you should be a good documenter to write the business requirement document, functional requirement document, functional specification document. You should be a good to write the requirement traceability matrix. You should good to write the end user manual. You should good to write the test case document. You should write all these documents that users should understand. You should write the presentation to do the presentation for the end user. So that the documentation quality you should have as a business analyst. Then you should have validated. You should validate all the requirements. You should take a sign off from the stakeholder once the requirement is come and the documentation analysis process is come. That's most important part. You should always take a sign off from the stakeholder on the document requirement. So it should be your duty as a business analyst. Let's move on the next slide. Best practice for the successful BRD. You should follow that techniques to successful BRD. That should impress the businesses if you should follow that technique. So first, start with why. Why we are implementing that system. Be clear, concise, be specific, measurable. It involves all key stakeholders. Iterate and refine, obtaining formal sign-off, version control, and focus on the business need. So let's discuss each point in detail and the understandable way. Let's start with why. Always link requirement back to business goals and the objective. Each requirement you should, once the business develop, business team, operation team will give the requirement, you should like think the 360-degree way. What that requirement, what my system will go in the changes, where the changes will happen, and accordingly you start asking questions to the business and gather the requirement from the business and understand their requirement, and then write down the key points, and then start writing the BRD. Be clear and concise. You should have clear understanding, clear the jargon. You should avoid the jargons. It's specific the business jargon, it's specific the technical jargon, because the business team don't know the technical word and the functionality, the technical team don't know the business word. So you are the business analyst, you should use the specific and simple word that both the team should understand, and they don't have the any open points after reading the BRD. So he's use the plain languages that all the teams should understand very well. Be specific and measurable. Requirements should be a testable. All the requirements are tested by the quality team, and they will understand your requirements once they read the BRD document. That should be clarity, and that should be a success BRD key points. It involves all key stakeholders. We use the ratio matrix to add all the key stakeholders, ensure the diverse perspective, and capture all the stakeholder with their importance and their the requirement things. So that's the important part. Then iterative and refine. BRD are living document. Be open to change and update. It should be whenever the business comes to new requirement, whenever the business want the invoice enhancement in their the system or the function. So you should be able to to prepare or enhance the current situation or the process. That should be a BRD content. Version control. Track the change meticulously. What change? Who going to make that changes? Who give the approval for that changes? It should be a clear and documented thing. Then focus on the business need. Avoid the detecting and technique solution. That should be there in the business requirement document. Let's move on the next slide. So the benefits of well crafted BRD. It's important part. If you draft very well BRD, so that's the benefit you should get from. Reduce the rework. improve the communication, higher the quality deliverable, streamline the testing, enhancement the project control, and gather the stakeholder satisfaction. So reduce the rework. If there is a proper document that should contain all the requirement that should be understandable all the stakeholder. So there is, you don't need to create again document. You don't need to to do the KT for the testing team, so they can understand what we are going to make changes. So if there is a clear and understandable business requirement document, so there you don't need to do the KD for them. So they will understand from the BRD how to write the test cases, how to do the testing itself. Then the improve the communication from the business analyst document. If you face any impediments or challenge, then you should go the BRD document and clearly show them how I write the business requirement document, and that requirement it should cover in the business requirement document in all the flow, basic flow, alternative flow, exceptional flow, and step by step, and who are the user, that use case or the test case, or who are the user of that user story, that should be covered in the business requirement document, and it improve the communication, higher the quality deliverable. I already covered that part is there. It's meets the solution actual business need, how the business wants that solution, streamline the testing. The tester will understand the while reading the your document, and he should able to write down the use test cases from the your BRD document. Enhance the project control from, if the you have the clear cut objective in scope functionality and out scope functionality, so it enhance the project control. There is no that someone team comes and that part is not a part of your BRD, and you should cover that. You should show them the in scope and out scope functionality of business requirement document, so you will create a new business requirement document if that is a new requirement. Okay, so that's the importance of the crafting the BRD. Then that greater the stakeholder satisfaction. If you have the document which are understandable, and stakeholder after reading that they understand how the system should work, so they will be satisfied and they will be happy for you. Okay, on your document. So then let's move on the challenges in BRD creation. It's also important. As a business analyst, what challenges you should face to creating the business requirement document? Like let's first one, a huge conflict requirement. So you should select appropriate requirement gathering technique. There is a number of technique. You should, there is the non-good good stakeholder. So you should work with them. If it is an important, how it's important for your project. So you should understand. You should make them happy. You should make them how they are important, how their important inputs are important for the business requirement document to success the business, to achieve the business objective, and how they are satisfied their the things. Then the scope creep, yeah, it's the important part. So it's uncontrollable expansion of project scope, that should not be there. If we fix the requirement, we freeze the requirement, then there is a no the new requirement schemes. If that comes, then the new technology is required, new team may be required, or the time may be required, the the budget may be required. So that's the in scope creep. Lack of stakeholder engagement. If there is a no BRD, so there is a they don't know how the system should work. If the the developer will change, if the tester will change, so if they a new person can come and read the business requirement document, and they will understand how they need to do, how the functional system should work. So that's the lack of the stakeholder engagement, the difficulty getting input or sign off. So that not there with the business requirement document. There is a technical and business jargons we should cover in the business requirement document, bringing the communications gap between the business team and the technical team. Over documented and under documented, that's most important things. So guys, your business requirement document, your functional requirement document, your the FSD should contain all, it should be optimum document. It should be or not be the over documented or under documented. It should cover all the requirement, and it should easy or understandable for the all kind of the user and the changing business need. Keeping the BRD relevant in dynamics environment. It should understand very well. Let's move on the next slide. So the conclusion and the key takeaway, the BRD is more than just a document. It's just not a document. It's the heart of the requirement. It's strategic tool to successful the project delivery. It should cover the entire projects in detail and appropriate way. A business analyst is indispensable in creation, ensuring clarity and alignment and value. That's the importance of the business requirement document. Okay, a well-defined BRD is a blueprint that guide the development and minimize the risks and maximize the project success. Yes, that's the important. In the business requirement document, I already told you we cover the functional requirement, non-functional requirement, business requirement, stakeholder requirement, or the technical requirement. So it's the blueprint. It should help all the teams where we are going to make the changes, what part they need to cover. So it's cover the in-scope functionality and out-scope functionality. So that's the importance of business requirement document. And then invest time upfront in a robust BRD to save the time, money, and the headache later. So it that helps and that prevent by the business requirement document. And that's key conclusion takeaway from the business requirement document. Let's move on the thank you slide, and thank you so much for attending the sessions. And if you have any questions, if you have any doubt, please like me and give me the subscribe me and write down the comments your doubt. I'll be there to help you, and I'll be happy to help you your open question. So thanks guys to attend and watch my PPT. Thanks.